I'm Frank Barnes. I'm the emergency manager for the City of Oklahoma City. As the emergency manager, I'm responsible for the city's comprehensive emergency management program, which includes mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. And today I'm going to talk to you about disaster preparedness. When we talk about disaster preparedness, one of the key components is individual responsibility. Being able to take care of you and your family for at least 3 days. And as part of that individual responsibility, you need to be informed, you need to make a plan, you need to build a kit, and you need to stay informed. When we talk about being informed, one of the first things you should do is know what to do before, during, and after an emergency. And there's more information about what to do before, during, and after an emergency at the FEMA website, www.ready.gov. But you should also know about what natural hazards may impact you and your family. For example, do you live in a floodplain or near a floodplain where your home could be flooded? Are you in an area that has severe weather and is prone to having tornadoes? Do you live on the coastline where you could be impacted by hurricanes? Do you live in an area that has earthquakes? Do you live on the coastline in an area that has earthquakes where you might be impacted by a tsunami? Know what natural hazards you have and then plan for those hazards. You should also learn about the technological and accidental hazards, sometimes referred to as man-made hazards. These are things like hazardous material sites. Do you live near a refinery? Do you live near a plant or company that stores or manufactures or uses large quantities of hazardous material? Are you near a railroad where a train may derail and that train may be carrying hazardous material? Do you live near an interstate? And on the interstate, are they transporting hazardous materials? Be aware of these kinds of hazards that may be in and around your home. You need to be aware of terrorist hazards. Are you in a community that may be a potential terrorist target? Another thing you should be aware of is your options for protection. Many people instinctively think that when something bad happens, they're supposed to immediately evacuate, and that's not necessarily true. Many times you can shelter in place. In fact, after many emergencies and disasters, if your home has not been damaged and is still habitable, then you should shelter in place and stay in your home. Only evacuate when necessary in order to save your life or when ordered to do so by authorities. Another part of being prepared is making a plan. Prepare, plan, and stay informed for emergencies. You have to plan for your risks. In the last slide, we talked about knowing what hazards you may face, and you need to plan for those hazards. If you know that you live in an area where there's a wildland fire-urban interface, where your home may be affected by a wildland fire, then you want to plan for how you're going to deal with that. How are you going to evacuate in the event of an advancing wildfire? If you live in a floodplain or near a floodplain where there's a potential being flooded, okay, how are you going to evacuate if your home is flooded? What are you going to do to recover after your home is flooded? So you need to plan for those risks that will impact you and your family. Plan to protect yourself and your family. And there's a good resource, the www.ready.gov website. It's called the Family Emergency Plan, and you can download this document, and it walks you through steps, and you fill in information so that you can build your own plan that's specific for your family and your situation. You also need to think about the care for your pets. You're probably going to want to evacuate with your pets, and you're going to need to care for those pets. You're going to have to be able to provide them with food and water and the medicine that they may require. And you may also have to take care of family members who have access or functional needs. They may have a mobility disability and may need assistance getting around or evacuating. Family communications. How will you contact one another in the case of an emergency? You know, right now, everyone's instinct is to pick up their cell phone and call their other family member. But as we have found during major emergencies and disasters, cell phone circuits become overloaded, and you're not able to get through. So you have to think about, how will I communicate in different situations? You know, one example is, okay, the cell phones don't work, or the cell phone system's overloaded. How do I communicate to my family members? How do I get a message to them that I'm okay, or where to meet, so that we can come together as a family? So that brings us to get tech ready. You know, one example that's provided at the website is learn how to send updates via text. Even though your cell phone may not work, we have found during major emergencies and disasters that text messaging does work. And a lot of messages can be sent from one cell phone to another using text messages. So learn how to do that. Find out if your phones have that capability, and use that as one of your options when you can't talk to someone using the telephone. Also think about having extra batteries for your cell phone, because if there's no electricity and you can't charge it, you're going to need to be able to charge that cell phone, or have a solar-powered or hand-cranked charger so you can recharge the batteries to your cell phone. As part of your plan, think about your escape routes. You know, certainly you want to think about how you evacuate your home. If your home were to catch fire, how are you going to evacuate your home? Where will the family meet up after they evacuate the home so that you can count heads and make sure that everyone got out of the home safely? But also think about if you have to evacuate your neighborhood. If you're in a neighborhood that may be prone to flooding, or may have a wildland urban interface, then think about how you're going to evacuate. What routes would you take? And you have to keep in mind that hazards can come from different directions, so you can't always rely on that one evacuation route. You may have to think of alternative routes. As part of your plan, make sure that you know how to turn off your utilities, how to turn off your natural gas, how to turn off your water, how to turn off your electricity. Many times after an earthquake, gas lines rupture, and homes that were not destroyed in the earthquake or did not suffer major damage catch fire because of leaking gas lines. Also, ruptured water lines, for example, after an ice storm or prolonged period of cold weather, can flood your home and do damage. Know how to shut them off so that you can minimize the damage to your home. Insurance and vital records. We encourage everyone to obtain homeowners and or renters insurance. You're going to find that the insurance company can provide you with money to rebuild and recover much quicker than government can. And we have seen from experience, especially after tornadoes, how quickly the insurance companies will come in, assess the damage, and begin writing checks so that homeowners can begin recovery almost immediately. Inventory your home possessions. Your insurance company is going to want to know what was in the home when it was destroyed or damaged. And if you don't have homeowners insurance, or your homeowners insurance isn't adequate, and you seek a disaster assistance from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, if there's a declared disaster, they're going to want to know what was in the home. And so that inventory of home possessions is very important for disaster recovery. Important documents. Gather your important documents, put them in one place, put them in a safe place where you can quickly and easily access them if you need to when you evacuate and have to leave your home. Money. ATMs or credit cards may not work after disaster due to a loss of electricity or a lack of computer connectivity. So you want to have a small amount of cash kept in a safe place that you can use to buy food, water, and fuel until electricity and computer connectivity is restored and you're able to use your debit and credit cards. Safety skills. As part of this planning process, think about gaining safety skills. Learn first aid, learn CPR, learn how to use a fire extinguisher, learn how to turn off your utilities. And also think about completing a community emergency response team course or CERT course that may be offered in your community. These courses, these CERT courses, which are about 24 hours in length, provide you with many of these basic skills we talked about. They'll give you some very basic first aid. They'll teach you how to use a fire extinguisher. They'll teach you how to do some light search and rescue. But what's most important about CERT training is it teaches you how to care for your family, your friends, your neighbors, and other people. And this CERT training will enable you to take care of immediate needs, especially in less priority situations, thereby freeing up your first responders to deal with more major situations in the community. Okay, tailor the plan to your needs. Take into account the different ages of your members of your family, their dietary needs, medical needs, including prescriptions and equipment, such as durable medical equipment, disabilities or access and functional needs, including the devices and equipment they need to maintain their independent lifestyle and their freedom, and also for pets and service animals. Another component of disaster preparedness is build a kit. And a disaster kit is simply disaster supplies that you gather together that you might need in the event of an emergency and will help you get by for a short period of time. So you may need to survive on your own after an emergency. Don't expect that government can immediately meet all of your needs. And typically, as we've seen in previous disasters, it usually takes local, state, and federal government up to 72 hours to mobilize resources, move them in position, and begin providing the kinds of services that you may need. So this means having your own food, water, and other supplies in a sufficient quantity to last for at least 72 hours. Local officials and relief workers will not be on scene after disaster, and they cannot reach everyone immediately. And you could get help in hours, or it may take days before assistance reaches you. So, what do you put in a kit? Well, number one is water. You need to stay hydrated. You need at least 1 gallon of water per person per day for at least 3 days. This is for both drinking and sanitation. You're going to need food, at least a 3-day supply of non-perishable food. Obviously, canned food and canned goods is one example. There are the civilian version of the military meals ready to eat that you can buy. There's dehydrated food. There's many options out there for non-perishable food. You should have a battery-powered or hand-cranked radio, and preferably a NOAA weather radio, what we refer to as an all-hazard alert weather radio. It's not just to get the weather, but it's also to get warnings about other hazards that may be occurring or may be headed your way. Make sure you have a flashlight with extra batteries because you're going to need that at nighttime when there's no electricity. You're going to want a basic first aid kit so you can provide basic first aid to your family members. A whistle to signal for help, especially if you might be trapped in your home and you need to let rescuers know that you're in there. A dust mask to help filter contaminated air or dust. And also consider plastic sheeting and duct tape so that you can shelter in place in the event of a hazardous material incident. Moist towelettes, garbage bags, and plastic ties for personal sanitation. You'll also want a wrench or pliers so that you can turn off your utilities. You're going to need a manual can opener for food, especially if you're using canned, non-perishable food. You may want some local maps of the area because after a tornado, many of the landmarks you're familiar with may be gone. And you might need that map to help navigate. You're going to want a cell phone with chargers and an inverter or solar charger so that you can keep it charged in the event there's no electricity. Okay, maintaining your kit. It's not just enough to put a kit together, but you need to maintain that kit. You want to make sure the contents are fresh and safe to use, that they've not expired. So this is an ongoing process. You're going to need to rotate your non-perishable food items in and out of that kit, because even non-perishable food items have expiration dates on them. So you're going to want to rotate those items in and out of your kit. Move them from your kit into your pantry and use them. Put the fresh items in your kit. You want to make sure that you store your kit in a safe place where it won't get damaged, where rodents and insects won't get into it, and so that it's ready to use in case you have to leave your home quickly. You want to be able to grab that kit and take it with you, because if you have to suddenly leave your home and maybe go to a shelter, you may find that having that kit and being able to provide for yourself in that shelter could be very important. And make sure all your family members know where that kit is so that they can grab it as well. If you have no electricity, you need to think about, how am I going to stay warm? How will I eat or prepare food? How will I see if it's dark? If you're on a water well pump, how are you going to get water? If you have electric water heater, how will you bathe, wash clothes, do your dishes? So when you have no electricity, you need to think about what your options are. Okay. You need to stay informed. You need to know the National Weather Service terms. You'll hear the term advisory. Advisory highlights special weather conditions that are less serious than a warning. They are for events that may cause a significant inconvenience, such as a couple inches of snow. And if caution is not exercised, it could lead to situations that may threaten life or property. A watch. A watch is used when the risk of hazardous weather or a hydrologic event, such as flooding, has increased significantly, but its occurrence, location, and or timing is still uncertain. And you'll frequently hear the National Weather Service put out a watch in advance of flash flooding, river flooding, severe weather, because they know that there's a high probability that it may occur. They're just not sure where and when it will occur. It's intended to provide enough lead time so that those who need to set their plans in motion can do so. So this is important. You hear that word watch, that's when it's time to start initiating your plan, putting your plan in motion so that you can take care of your family. When you hear the word watch, it's a little too late to start making a plan and getting a kit. You need to have those tasks done before the National Weather Service issues a watch. A warning. The National Weather Service will issue a warning when a hazardous weather or hydrologic event, like a flood, event is occurring, is imminent, or has a high probability of occurring. A warning is used for conditions posing a threat to life or property. So when you hear the word warning, now you really need to pay attention to what's going on in your physical environment, what's taking place around you, and take the appropriate measures to protect yourself and your family. You can get more information from several sources. One source that I highly recommend for people who are deaf is going to accessibleemergencyinfo.com. This is a website that was developed by a health department out of Texas. If you go to this website, there are a series of videos with an American Sign Language interpreter describing exactly what you need to do before, during, and after various types of disasters, such as tornado, flood, hurricane, and so forth. It's an excellent site, and I highly recommend you use it. They also have closed captioning on the site, as well as audio. So those members of your family who can hear can follow along with you. I also recommend that you check out FEMA's website, www.ready.gov. A lot of good information there as well about different types of hazards and what to do before, during, and after. And then the American Red Cross. This is also one of my favorite sites. I like looking at their site and getting information. They put it in a format that's easy to understand. They also have it available in a format that you can print. So you can print it off before the disaster. Include that information as part of your kit. And that concludes my presentation on disaster preparedness. If you have questions or you need more information, go to one of those websites that I just mentioned, or contact your local emergency management agency and ask them for information. Thank you.